Hello, I'm Alex from Annie Best Recaps, and I'd love to tell you a story. The story begins in the year 2029, when a boy named Akira loses both his parents in a terrible car accident. With no other family, he finds himself completely alone in the world. However, a good friend of his father, a man named Kazuha, takes him in. There, Akira is welcomed with open arms, and Kazuha's daughter, Tawasa, promises to be the best big sister ever. 9 years later, the world is a different place. Artificial intelligence has spread to every corner of society, but not everyone is happy. Millions have lost their jobs to automation, and AI-related crimes are skyrocketing. The technology advances relentlessly, and many are demanding government intervention. Our protagonist, Akira, follows the news and watches with a mix of pride and admiration as his sister becomes more and more famous. Tawasa is considered a prodigy, the world's leading mind in android research. With multiple doctorates and patents, she runs a massive company and serves as a research consultant. Akira is in awe. Everywhere he looks, he sees the technology she helped create. His feelings, however, go beyond admiration. Over the years, Akira has fallen in love with her. One night, Tawasa's worst nightmare comes true. Several countries are calling for a complete halt to android research. The arguments over the pros and cons are endless, but public opinion has turned, and there's a high chance that her life's work will be shut down. Akira can't do much, but he decides the least he can do is keep her spirits up. He asks her to go to the zoo, and she's completely taken aback when she realizes he's asking her out on a date. Her smart wristwatch even advises her to confess her feelings, reminding her that they aren't blood-related. The next day, the two spend the day at the zoo, and this becomes the first of many more dates. One evening, Akira gives her a robot pet as a gift, revealing he's been studying non-stop to learn more about her research. Later, it's Tawasa's turn to give him a gift, a photo album so he can remember all the time they've spent together. She tells Akira how important he is to her, and the boy, unable to hold back any longer, confesses his love for her. To his luck, Tawasa feels the same way and says she would love to marry him. The AI that permeates their home played a big role in bringing them together, and the two think it. Tawasa finds it strange how people use AI for every little thing, but just as they're on the verge of creating artificial personalities indistinguishable from humans, they can't accept it. Days later, Tawasa attends a shareholder meeting for her company. There's a crowd of protesters outside, but inside, the room is filled with prominent world leaders. If she can win over the public with her presentation, it will be a giant step forward for the advancement of androids. She embraces Akira, and he wishes her good luck. The presentation begins. Tawasa's devices are implanted in the body, allowing users to utilize AI 24/7, connected to the network at all times, even in their sleep. Suddenly, a fanatic storms the stage, calling Tawasa a traitor to humanity. He fires a shot at her. Akira rushes to save her, but he's too late. Tawasa, though wounded, is more worried about him as the shooter is still armed. Akira realizes the danger, throws himself in front of her to protect her, and is shot several times in the back. He collapses, cursing his failure as his consciousness fades. Realizing his life is about to end, he uses his last breath to whisper a heartfelt apology to Tawasa. Moments later, Akira awakens to a sharp fall from inside a pod. He quickly realizes all his wounds are gone, but he has no idea where he is. A look outside only deepens his concern. The city is in utter ruins. The pain of a rock hitting his head makes it clear this isn't a dream. He notices he fell from some kind of medical capsule. Just then, a man arrives and refers to Akira as the Sage. He explains that an earthquake caused the ruins to collapse and that he came to check on the Sage. Akira understands nothing, but it doesn't matter as he passes out again. When he wakes up, the man introduces himself as Waya and his daughter is Edie. Waya explains that the Sage is a god revered by his village, a divine being who bestows knowledge upon his people and who had been sleeping in those ruins since long before Waya was born. A memory flashes in Akira's mind, and he wonders, is Tawasa okay? The other villagers explain that they don't know how long Akira was asleep.
As peasants, they don't have history access rights. They discuss how Akira is technically a relic and how risky it is not to report him to Owell. They explain, is the unified institution that governs the world. Countries like Japan no longer exist. They are grateful to Owell, as it was thanks to them that world peace was achieved and war was eliminated. One of the men, however, wants to report him. He argues that Wea is endangering everyone because if Owell finds out, they will make an example of them. Wea's wife, tired of the bickering, declares they will not be reporting Akira. He just woke up in a new world and needs care. That night, Akira sheds a tear thinking of Tawasa while an ominous figure watches him from a distance. A while later, the villagers ask for Akira's help and are impressed when he manages to fix their broken tractor. The celebration, however, is cut short by the arrival of Commissioner Canis. The man who wanted to report him had done so. Canis informs Akira that he is being detained, as he is considered an archaeological artifact and, as such, has no civil liberties. Akira protests, but Canis angrily declares that Owell's control over information supersedes everything. Wea tries to defend Akira, but Canis informs him that he is also under arrest for treason for failing to report the relic. Wea tries to defend himself, but Canis is ruthless and shoots him in the leg. The situation worsens as Canis reveals he will also be taking Uera as a witness. Her mother refuses, but she is powerless. The injured Wea tries to reason with the psychopath, but Canis has had enough and uses a taser on Wea's gunshot wound. Everyone cries out as Wea screams in agony, and Canis laughs like a lunatic. Canis takes the three away, and Akira blames himself for everything. On the train, the cold-blooded commissioner orders his men to leave the relic on the train and remove the other two to be disposed of. Akira is horrified, but it gets worse. Canis orders 3 of his men to return to the village and eliminate everyone who knows of the relic's existence. He plans to use Akira and his ancient knowledge to rise through the ranks of Owell. Desperate, Akira thinks of a solution as Canis prepares to shoot the girl. Suddenly, a voice echoes in his mind. "Get down!" A blade of energy slices the train in half. A girl crashes through the wreckage to free Akira and springs into action. Her first target is Canis. She destroys him with a single blow, sending him flying into a barn. It all happens so fast that the soldiers can only stare in disbelief. The girl then turns to Akira and says she can rescue all of them easily. Canis, injured, orders his men to take her out, but she doesn't react even when surrounded. She refuses to do anything until Akira promises to hear what she has to say after the fight. With no other choice, he agrees. The soldiers fire a barrage of bullets, but she is prepared. A barrier of energy protects them and fires the bullets right back at the soldiers. She draws her sword again and begins to slice the soldiers to pieces in a lethal dance. One guard is about to shoot her from behind, but Akira, proving useful, hits him in the head with a steel rod. Just then, Canis reemerges with a machine gun, certain that not even she can defend against this. The girl is completely unfazed. She reveals a much better weapon. Planting herself on the ground, her arm transforms into a gigantic cannon. A single shot unleashes a devastating beam of energy that eviscerates the commissioner, the train, and the entire mountain behind them. It's obvious to Akira now, she is not human. She reveals she is an android and introduces herself as Yugure, reminding him of their deal. Akira freezes as Yugure reveals her face, a perfect mirror of Tawasa's. With a smile, she says, "Now let's get married."
As the scene unfolds, Akira asks if she is Tawasa, but she says no, her name is Yugure, and she has no idea who Tawasa is, which makes Akira wonder if there's something wrong with his brain. The android then shows a recording of when he agreed to hear her out, and explains that the favor she wants is for them to get married. Akira, of course, doesn't understand a thing. Yugure assumes she's being rejected and starts to intimidate our protagonist, even using the famous Kabadan, which, by the way, crumbles from the android's strength. Akira, thinking he's about to be put to sleep again, starts to stammer that he just needs some time to think. This calms her down, and she then shows him an engagement ring, the very ring he gave to Tawasa. Akira obviously recognizes it, which makes him realize that Yugure must know who Tawasa is. The android admits she might know her, but refuses to give a direct answer, saying the information is confidential. Besides, they don't have time to talk as they need to help the injured Wea. That night, the man who reported Akira apologizes, ready to accept any punishment. But Akira, knowing he was only trying to protect the village, accepts the apology. Even so, OL is now after him, and Akira decides he must leave. He says goodbye to everyone, but is surprised when Yugure joins him. She mentions she's still waiting for his answer, but Akira points out the insanity of marrying someone he just met. Yugure, however, doesn't give up, interpreting this as a sign that they just need to get to know each other better. So that's why she's coming with him. And Akira's first stop is the shrine where he woke up, hoping to find a clue. He asks Yugure to teach him about the current world. However, she mentions that this is also confidential. He then asks about her, why she wants to marry him. But that, according to her, is premium content. He even offers to pay, but Yugure only accepts payment in the form of marriage. Or as a last resort, she'll give him the information if you, watching this recap, help Alex out with a like and some hype. And also by subscribing, that way he'll know you want the continuation of the anime. And with that, she might be able to give some answers. The scene evolves and they finally arrive at the shrine, but it's too dark. Suddenly, Yugure senses something and pulls Akira aside, using an ability to hide their presence. She explains there are people nearby they must avoid at all costs. A strange woman then cuts her way into the shrine with her sword, while the other, named Hakubo, seems peaceful, but Yugure warns that they'll be in mortal danger if found by them. The girls are looking for someone, and Hakubo uses a kind of radar. This makes Akira realize they are androids, just like Yugure. However, he notices a curious similarity, as all of them somehow have a face identical to Tawasa's. Suddenly, the angry woman senses something, and with an attack, reveals that Iti, Wia's daughter, was hiding nearby. Akira silences him, explaining that they won't hurt her. After being questioned, E.T. confirms she knows that Canis was eliminated and admits to knowing who the culprit is. Miss Hothead demands to know who it was, but the girl bravely says she can't tell as the person who did it saved her life. Since she also doesn't know where they are, the girls decide it's another dead end and leave. Akira rushes to the girl and she reveals she followed them because she needed to return his watch, which she found in the ruins. Akira puts it on, hoping to find a clue, and sees there's a message from Tawasa. In the recording, Tawasa admits to having made many mistakes and that she must live with the knowledge of what she's done. They are sins that will haunt her forever, a burden she must carry alone. She expresses her undying love for Akira, but begs him not to look for her, no matter what. Her final message is for Akira to cherish the life and time he has. The message was from none other than 200 years ago. This forces Akira to accept the harsh reality that Tawasa is gone. But even so, he refuses to give up completely and declares he will still look for her, and his next stop will be the house where they used to live. Knowing things could get dangerous, he asks Yugure, whom he feels he can trust, to accompany him. Later, Yugure explains that Yoami and Hakubo are officers in the OL Special Forces and are after her. This makes Akira wonder if Yugure works for OL and why they all have the same face. But guess what, my dear friends, it's all confidential. At least he'd like to know why she wants to marry him, and her answer is simple: because I want to. Akira reminds her that his fiancée is Tawasa, but Yugure retorts that since they weren't married yet, she still has a chance. She then pins him to the ground, promising to make him forget Tawasa and fall madly in love with her. After a lot of pressure, Akira finally gets her to stop by calling her by her name for the first time, and this makes her hit the brakes and behave. The scene shifts, and the next day, while E.T. heads home, they prepare for their journey. They need to cross a river, but the ferry only runs once a week. Fortunately, a man named Oboro, who's heading to the same destination, offers them a ride. Oboro asks them what they're going to do in Honshu, and Yugure, without the slightest shame, tells him they're on their honeymoon. As soon as they arrive, Akira bumps into a girl and accidentally breaks her paintbrush. He promises to buy her a new one, and she introduces herself as Amor.
Akira pays for the brush with the money Wia gave him, but the clerk gives too much change. The shop owner is furious with the employee, especially since he had already been scammed and bought a fake Litojin. Hearing this, Yugure says they can keep the change and quickly gets them out of there. As the scene evolves, Akira wants to know what a Litojin is, and Yugure explains that they are people who have voluntarily renounced their human rights in exchange for being absolved of a crime or debt. In return, they are obliged to perform labor for OL.
Akira, hearing this, feels very uncomfortable, as this is very similar to slavery, even if the Litojan's basic needs, like food, clothing, and shelter, are guaranteed. He doesn't like the idea at all, and Yugure is surprised by his compassion. Akira remembers to give Amoru her new paintbrush. The girl, curious, asks where they're going, and Akira explains they need to cross a nearby mountain on their way to Tokyo. The girl reveals that OL has a checkpoint on the main road, but fortunately she knows an alternative route and leads them there. On the way, Amoru shows off her drawings and Akira is impressed. He can't help but see Tawasa in the picture, but Yugure points out that it's actually her in the drawing. Amoru reveals she always wanted to draw storybooks, and Akira is sure she can do it and hopes she'll let him read one of her books someday. Suddenly, something seems wrong, and she runs ahead. Yugure notices this and also spots a strange tattoo on the girl's back. That night, the group dines on roasted rabbit thanks to Yugure's hunting skills. Akira, curious, asks if the android eats food, and she reveals she has an infinite energy core, but eats as a hobby. Yugure then changes the subject and asks to see the book Amoru carries. The girl gets scared, but Yugure reassures her, revealing she knows it's a banned book, but that she won't steal it. The book is called Bird of the Heart, and it was written by Amoru's parents, who were storybook authors, which explains why she was so careful with the book. Akira mentions he admires the drawings and says he's sure she's talented enough to achieve her dreams. The next morning, they arrive at Mount Osere. OL soldiers guard the entrance, but Yugure, experienced in sneaking around, hides her face and gets in. They then enjoy the local food, but Akira can't ignore how the Litojans are being exploited in that area. Yugure advises him not to stick his nose where it doesn't belong. Akira acknowledges he has enough problems of his own and won't get into more trouble, but he can't help but feel bothered by it all, as none of it seems right. Yugure clarifies to him that a society's values and what is right change over time. However, before they can continue the conversation, they are approached by OL soldiers who mention they know the person behind the hood is Yugure, saying that if she doesn't cooperate, the relic will die. At that moment, a minimally eccentric human being appears, mentioning that this was an incredible service rendered to him, the magnificent Marlum. Akira, remembering Canis's eccentricity, just thinks he's feeling a sense of déjà vu. Marlum slowly approaches, explaining that he received a message from his second cousin Cani via carrier pigeon about the ancient relic and recognized Yugure's face. After all, she looks just like both Yoyami and Hakubo. However, at that moment, even the devil would tremble in fear, as we discover that Amoru was none other than a spy who ran to Marlum, whom she called 1221. Akira doesn't understand what's happening, but Marlum reveals that they were tricked by a Litojan. Amoru admits to lying, explaining that OL promised to return her parents' books if she brought them here, but obviously she couldn't have been more wrong, as Marlum is a terrible person. He mocks her for believing him, calling her a fool for thinking they wouldn't burn every last one of her books to ashes. He throws her to the ground, orders his men to take her and to give her the same treatment her parents had. He delights in the thought of the promotion he'll receive. Akira asks if Yugure can do something, but she says she can only guarantee his safety, not Amoru's, and that's not enough for Akira. Suddenly, Amoru charges at Marlum, yelling for them to run, and this distraction gives Yugure enough time to grab Akira and get out of there. Marlum takes his anger on Amoru and finds the book she was hiding. Safely away, Akira wants to go back to help Amoru, but Yugure reminds him that she lied to them. He doesn't care, as he feels guilty for encouraging her dream without understanding her situation. Back with Amoru, she begs for her book, but Marlum says he must follow the rules. He must burn the book. She screams in agony as she's forced to watch her parents' work go into flames.
With Akira, Yugure gives in and agrees to rescue Amoru, but only if he agrees to marry her. Akira can't believe that's all she ever thinks about and insults her, saying she really is just an android. Yugure is visibly hurt and lets him go, and Akira runs to help Amoru.
The scene changes and we see Amoru in a cell feeling overwhelming sadness as she thinks about her parents. But suddenly she hears noises and someone enters the cell, and that someone could be none other than our boy Akira. She asks what he's doing there and he simply replies that he came to save her. While they're talking, the scene cuts outside and we see Yugure watching everything from afar like a true stalker. Back to the duo, Amoru still doesn't get why he's there, mentioning that she betrayed him. But Akira, being the good guy protagonist that he is, says he couldn't just abandon her. But of course, it wasn't going to be easy. Suddenly, the alarm goes off and they're spotted. Now it's run or die. Akira uses a stun baton to take out a guard and they finally make it out of the building. However, the nightmare was clearly just beginning, because outside, Marlum, that damn psychopath, was waiting for them. He mocks Akira, saying they fell right into his trap. Surrounded by guards, there's nothing Akira can do. Marlum is even disappointed he didn't get to capture the android, but he settles for capturing Akira, the relic. However, Akira manages to break free and runs straight at Marlum. He grabs him and demands that Amoru be set free, but this only makes things worse. The move infuriates Marlum, who hates being catched by commoners or beggars, and he gives the order to teach Akira a lesson. Amoru watches in a horror as the guards start beating Akira relentlessly. She begs them to stop, even offering herself as a replacement, but Akira yells at her not to. He declares that they can't give up and promises they'll get out of there together. He reminds her of her dream to find her parents' books and become an artist. Amoru's hope is restored, but Marlum couldn't care less about this motivational speech. He's tired of their sad little story and orders Amoru to be eliminated. Terror freezes Akira as a gun is pointed at her head. He can only scream for them to stop, but they don't listen. Except at that exact moment, we see Yugure, looking very annoyed, deciding she's done watching. In the blink of an eye, she takes out 3 guards and frees Amoru. Akira can't even believe she actually came. Marlum is just happy, thinking he's going to capture the android now, but Yugure has other plans. She starts wrecking even more guards, and Amoru, in the middle of the chaos, can only think about how beautiful she is. Yugure's blade slices through the soldiers' weapons like paper, and they run away terrified. Marlum calls them cowards and tries to handle it with his own gun, but he doesn't stand a chance. Yugure then hits him with an incredible kick that I even felt, sending him flying into another building where he lands, no joke, head first in a toilet. Amoru is in shock at the android's power, while Akira, confused, asks Yugure why she helped since she said before that her principles kept her from saving Amoru. Yugure, all serious, says she's still following her principles and rescuing Amoru was aligned with her objectives. She insists she acted on logic because she's an android, but Akira knows there's more to it. He decides to drop it for now and just thanks Yugure. The next morning, the trio starts their journey back to Omamori City. Yugure reveals she also grabbed Amoru's bag from the prison, and the girl thanks her. While Amoru changes, Yugure uses some incredible technology to heal all her bruises in seconds. Akira's jaw drops, asking what kind of crazy tech that is. But guess what? Yes, my dear friends, it's confidential. Akira gets frustrated, but Yugure gives him a hint. She says she might explain this healing tech and her principles if she senses that the audience really wants the continuation. And how will she know that? Only if you watching this recap help Alex out with your like and your hype. So you know what to do, right? Help him out. Amoru then asks if she can remove the tattoo that marks her as a Litogen. Yugure agrees, but warns her it will hurt. The pain passes quickly, and Amoru gets emotional when she sees Yugure replace the mark of slavery with a much more beautiful tattoo, the bird her parents used to draw. Amoru cries with happiness. It reminds her of her family, and she declares she'll go with them on their journey. Akira is a bit shocked, but decides it can't hurt to have one more person in the group, and Yugure is on board too. The scene changes, and we see the group's first stop is Omamori. When they arrive, Akira is relieved to see the place has hotels, so he can finally rest and even take a bath. They notice some super heavy security, and Amuro explains it's because of a famous festival called Fika. It's a festival where people look for their future romantic partners. Yugure couldn't care less about the festival. According to her, she doesn't need it because she will marry Akira.
Akira, already out of patience, tries to understand what's going on in her head, mentioning that he thinks she only wants this because he's the only person she knows. Meanwhile, Amuro, totally spacing out, suggests they should all make an LC, in other words, get married together. Akira then hits the brakes on the girls. He explains they're guiding themselves by things that aren't love. Amuro is only thinking about drawing, and Yugure, for her part, only knows Akira, so she has no basis for comparison. Anyway, he reminds them that his one true love is Tawasa, and that his journey is all about finding her. Amuro just replies that in that case, they'll just make a 4-person LC, showing she didn't understand a single thing. Yugure then responds that she'll prove it to him. She says she will compare him to other men, and if no one else can gain her affection, it will prove her love is real. Amuro also says she doesn't want him to doubt the love she feels for him. The guy, seeing the situation spinning out of control, simply realizes there's nothing he can do. The girls have made up their minds. They are going to the festival. The scene changes, and as night falls elsewhere, we see a man named Calicrom closing an illegal arms deal with a lieutenant colonel named Yamabuki. Calicrom, who wants to be the boss of the famous Lontano family, is buying a gigantic arsenal. The lieutenant wonders if he's planning to start a war. Their chat is interrupted by the guards of Fides, Calicrom's sister. Fides is the eldest daughter of the Lontano family and rushed over as soon as she heard there was a rat, a traitor, in her brother's group. She doesn't want Calicrom's stupidity to stay in the family name, so she came to eliminate the rat. Fides declares that she will be the next boss. The traitor then tries to attack Fides, but Calicrom kills him first, revealing there was more than one rat there. It's then explained to us that the current boss of the family had 10 children and made them compete for the position. This obviously led to a bloodbath that left only Calicrom and Fides alive. However, another problem is starting to show up. Since neither of them has a family, something that worries the boss. After all, it's important to continue the bloodline. Because of this, he warns them they need to find partners, and fast, explaining it's part of the job. Fides immediately assures her father she will find a partner at the festival. The scene changes, and the next morning, the girls remind Akira about the festival. He couldn't care less and tells them to go. Amuro catches up to Yugure, but notices that she, who is usually subtle, is super serious. Meanwhile, Akira overhears some guys talking about the Lontano family, the owners of the city, like the mafia, and the siblings will be at the festival. At the festival, Amuro is telling her life story to strangers, and slowly realizes that no one is as cool as Akira. Meanwhile, Yugure dismisses every guy who approaches her, saying that chance of interaction is almost nil. And suddenly, who shows up? Akira himself. He was worried about the whole mafia thing, but he sees the vibe is calm. He then spots a bunch of girls swarming Calicrom, one of the mafia bosses. On the other side, a line of men tries to impress Fides, but she dismisses them one by one with a snap of her fingers until no one is left. Calicrom arrives to mock his sister for being alone, and she retorts that she just has high standards, unlike him. She gets tired of the conversation and leaves. Later, Akira sees that Yugure got wasted after dismissing everyone and drinking non-stop. Just then, Amuro shows up and is happy to see him, asking if he was worried about them. He doesn't even get to answer because he realizes Yugure has disappeared. Akira runs off to find her, but he accidentally bumps into Fides, spilling wine on her dress. He panics and starts thinking out loud, wondering if the cleaning solution he used to use still exists. Fides hears him and asks what he meant by used to use. He realizes he just stuck his foot in a problem as she starts confronting him about it. Amuro, seeing him being cornered, asks her to leave him alone, mentioning that he only knows so much because he came from the old days. And it's at that moment Akira realized he didn't just stick his foot in a problem, he's submerged up to his neck. Fides is shocked. She'd heard rumors that a man from ancient times was wandering around, and she demands he explain. Akira, with no other choice, just tells her what happened. Fides, sensing an opportunity, declares that she would like to make an Elsie with Akira. He just freaks out, since this is the second proposal he's received since he woke up from his long sleep. Fides offers a deal. She knows Owell is after him, so she will protect him if he marries her. Akira asks about love, but Fides says love serves no purpose. At that exact moment, Fides is interrupted by screams. She sees it's Kalakram down there, and people are yelling that he found a new girl. Somehow she looks annoyed by this, and Akira realizes in that instant what's really going on. Fides actually wants to make an Elsie with Kalakram. She even tries to deny it, but realizing her secret is somewhat exposed, she just says that inbreeding is strictly forbidden, meaning the boss doesn't allow an Elsie between siblings. Akira almost freaks out, realizing he's her brother, and, well, I think he needs to ponder these things carefully, especially considering he is still in love with someone who was raised as his sister. Anyway, let's move on. The commotion down below is because Kalakram has supposedly found a potential partner, and, well, as if there weren't enough problems, we find out that this partner is Yugure, who is completely wasted, no joke, hugging a bottle of wine. Kalakram then kneels before her and asks her to make an Elsie with him, and she just hiccups and stays silent, while Akira, in disbelief at the situation, wonders in what the world how they ended up here.
Night has fallen, and we see Amoru in an inn with Yugure. The younger girl asks if she's really going to form an LC with that guy, since she'd mentioned wanting to do that with Akira. Yugure, however, asks the girl if she even knows what a marriage is. Since the girl has no answer, she explains that marriage is a social and economic relationship founded on a continuous relationship between a man and a woman. The girl, not understanding a thing, just asks if she's complicating this on purpose, but the android affirms that the explanation was concise and precise. Amoru then asks if what she's trying to say, in other words, is that only one person can form an LC. She mentions that feeling something for just one person seems hard, even asking what happens if you meet another person you like. But Yugure answers this by saying she is totally dedicated to Akira, and that the fact he's the same way is exactly the problem, because Tawasa lives in his heart. The scene changes, and the next day Lord Lentano is all smiles and calls Kalakram for a meeting. He heard the rumors that his son finally snagged a partner at the Fika festival and is already demanding grandkids. But Kalakram, all mysterious, insists it's still too early to think about that. Meanwhile, Fides is in the stables venting to her favorite horse about the rumors of Kalakram's partner. When her bodyguard shows up to gossip, she cuts him off for interrupting the moment. But she assures him there's no need to panic. She's secured a partner of her own. Back at the inn, Akira is trying to convince Yugure not to go on a date with Kalakram. He warns her the guy is dangerous and she shouldn't get mixed up with the mafia. Amara was also confused, like, huh? But yesterday you didn't even care about him. Yugure gives that excuse. She only accepted the invitation to prove to Akira that she can't feel anything for anyone else. She then mentalizes that it seems to be working, and I can only think she's doing this to spark jealousy in the guy's heart. Let's see if my theory proves true. And speaking of the devil, Kalakram shows up out of nowhere early with a bouquet of flowers, saying he was just too anxious to see her. Yugure analyzes the flowers and recognizes they symbolize true love. Kalakram is impressed, saying he expected nothing less from an android. This revelation makes Akira freeze. He's terrified, thinking Yugure is in danger, but she calms him down. Kalakram already knows she's an android and accepted her anyway. Akira, still skeptical, questions the guy's intentions. Kalakram teases him, asking if he's jealous, and Yugure drops the bomb. Akira is my fiancé. Kalakram gives that mischievous little smirk that makes Akira certain of the fact he is identical to Fides. And as if summoned, Fides yells Akira's name, announcing that she's arrived to pick him up for their date. Akira's like, what? And Fides reminds him, you are my LC partner. In that moment, Amoru and Yugure surround Akira, forbidding him to leave alone with Fides and demanding a full explanation. Akira, all embarrassed, says it was just a little accident, and he never thought she was serious. To make matters worse, Kalakram suggests a double date so they can see who made the better choice. He leads the group to his car, and everyone's jaw drops at the quality of the machine. Kalakram reveals he bought it in Tokyo, which immediately sparks Akira's interest. He asks for information, but Calcrum says he won't give anything away for free. However, he tells Akira not to lose hope and that he might spill the info if he's drunk, or who knows, if he sees that this video is blowing up. And how will he know that? Only if you watching help Alex out with his like and his hype. So you know what to do, right? Help him out. The group gets in the car and heads to the shopping district. Calcrum takes Yugude to a jewelry store and offers to buy the most expensive piece in the shop, and she accepts. He even looks over at Akira with a total suck it loser face. Meanwhile, Fetus is treating Akira like a pack mule, loading his arms with bags. Akira is shocked that this is her concept of a date and finally understands why she's single and desperate enough to settle for someone like him. Amoru even comments that he's being treated like a porter, but he insists he had to come, not just for the Tokyo info, but because he doesn't trust Calcrum alone with Yugude. And deep down, he's disappointed he can't get Fetus and Calcrum together because he knows that's what they both really want. But then, my friends, comes the plot twist. Yugude pulls Calcrum into an alley and scolds him for turning the date into a double date. And Calcrum reveals everything. He is only helping Yugude with her plan to make Akira jealous. He said he related to her situation and that the only thing that went off script, according to him, was Fetus proposing the LC to Akira. Yugude admits the plan is working, and Calcrum reveals why he's helping. He's just curious to see how this relationship between a human and an android will end, and if love truly conquers all.
Meanwhile, Akira sees Amoru looking at a paint set and decides to buy it for her, which makes Fetus furious that he didn't buy anything for her. Yugure comes out of the alley and sees Akira. She thinks about telling him the whole truth, but decides against it. Akira doesn't understand why she's giving him the cold shoulder, but brushes it off. As he has a new plan, he asks Calcrum to take them to the library. At the library, while Amoru gets excited to look for her parents' books, Akira goes to research some law books, but Fetus throws cold water on his plan, saying they're useless since Owl controls all the content. Because of that, they unfortunately leave without any new information. But Amoru spots some merchants in an alley and thinks they might have the books. She decides to go after them, leading to the obvious consequence: she gets lost. Everyone splits up to look for her, and Fetus, annoyed at having to look for the stubborn child, ends up getting lost too and becomes nostalgic. The alley brings back memories of her and Calcrum playing hide and seek as kids, where she promised to protect him when she became the boss. Calcrum finds her, and she tries to play it cool, but he remembers her promise. Nearby, we see that Akira just happened to stumble upon the moment between the siblings. Right on cue, Yugure arrives with Amoru, saying she just found her, and the three of them just watch the interaction. Calcrum, being direct, grabs a sheet and wraps Fetus in it, reminding her how good she was at hide and seek. Fetus feels the vibe, but hides her feelings and walks away. Akira sees it all and feels bad, knowing their blood relation is stopping them from experiencing this love. He turns to Yugure, now certain that Calcrum loves Fetus, and yells at her for wearing the necklace he gave her. Yugure scoffs, thinking it's jealousy. Akira tries to explain but can't find the words. Then Yugure confronts him, saying she went out with Calcrum as a test to prove her love is real. But why the hell did he agree to go out with Fetus? Amoru joins in, and the two of them back the guy into a corner. Akira defends himself, saying he's engaged to Tawasa. At this, Amoru asks if she's going to LC with Calcrum, and Yugure, as if adding gasoline to the fire, just says she's calmly evaluating that. This shocks Akira and Amoru. The scene changes, and we see them returning home in a funereal climate, at least until the car gets a flat tire. Akira, to everyone's surprise, changes the tire himself, mentioning it's thanks to his adoptive dad. Calcrum is impressed, saying he was only taught to dedicate himself to the family. Akira seizes the opportunity and asks if his feelings for Yugure are real. Calcrum admits he finds her fascinating. He then goes straight to the point and asks about his feelings for Fetus. Calcrum just throws the question back at him. Akira refuses to answer, but Calcrum is clear. He will bless whoever Fetus chooses, but he will kill anyone who breaks her heart.
Akira accuses him of being in love with her, but he dodges the question. Meanwhile, Fides tells Yugure that true love is bullshit, but at that moment, the conversation is interrupted by a container that falls, about to crush a worker. Yugure acts in an instant and saves the guy, but a secret agent sees everything and recognizes her as a fugitive. Fides also figures it out from the speed. Yugure is an android, and she realizes Kalkrum can't marry her since androids can't have children. At that moment, Akira and Kalkrum run up to see what's going on, but Fides just points at what happened and walks away. Akira tells Kalkrum to go after her, but he replies, "That's your job now. After all, she chose you." As Fides runs, she remembers another memory, young Kalkrum saying he wanted to be the boss to change the family so she would never have to cry again. Akira then finds her, and she mentions he's a nice guy for coming. At that moment, she admits that Kalkrum would certainly be a better boss than her, seeing as he's smart, charismatic, and has a big heart. She even mentions that he's the one responsible for taking care of their exiled siblings, who were supposed to be killed for being unfit to rule, getting them jobs, and providing support. She says that even so, she must become the boss, because a guy as good as him couldn't handle the disgraces a Lontano family boss has to do and witness. The scene changes, and back at the mansion, the agent informs Lord Lontano that Yugure is an android, and he decides to capture her for himself before Owl arrives. That night, at dinner, all hell breaks loose. Kalkrum asks Yugure to marry him in front of everyone. Fides stands up to leave, but stops when Yugure refuses. Yugure says her perception of love was wrong and advises Kalkrum to show his feelings to the right person, which is Fides. Akira also tries to get the siblings to work it out, but Lord Lontano enters, furious. He reveals he always knew about the chemistry between the two and accuses Kalkrum of treason, planning to be childless with an android and buying black market weapons, all to kill him and take power. Lord Lontano points a gun at his son and orders Fides to execute him, promising her the boss position if she obeys. While Kalkrum tells her to shoot to save herself, Akira stops her. Kalkrum grabs her gun, points it at his father, saying there is no family left, and shoots a guard. The Lord orders them to capture Yugure at all costs. Yugure, already half drunk, stands up, complains that they ruined her fun, and releases all the alcohol toxins from her body, creating a poison cloud and daring anyone to get close. But Akira sees what she doesn't, a sniper in the window, aiming right at her. He realizes she doesn't know the danger. He runs, shoves her out of the way, and, well, unfortunately, he takes the bullet for her.
After our protagonist takes a bullet, hits the floor, and starts bleeding out, we see Kalkrum react immediately, firing a clean headshot right at the sniper. But Akira, even while dying and with his vision blurring, is only worried about whether Yugure got hurt. The android, seeing her fiancé on the ground, gets filled with rage and enters combat mode. She analyzes every enemy in the room, tells Amoru to take care of Akira, and gets ready to clean house. Akira, with his last breath, still asks her not to kill Lord Lontano. Yugure thinks this is bizarre since the old man just tried to kill him, but she agrees to the request, telling Kalkrum right after to step back because things are about to get serious now. With that, she launches some robotic spheres that open up and fire lasers, destroying most of the goons. Lontano, however, manages to save himself and, even in desperation, attacks Yugure with a sword, screaming that she will obey him. Yugure just questions why she would ever obey someone who hurt a person she cares about. Not to mention, on top of that, Kalkrum and Fides would be disappointed. That said, she grabs the blade with her bare hand, breaks it in half, and delivers 2 kicks that leave that damn old man hanging by a thread. She then decides to grant Akira's wish and doesn't take the mafia boss's life, leaving him in the hands of his children. They, better than anyone, will know what to do and how to proceed, while she goes to take care of Akira. At that moment, Fides and Kalkrum exchange looks and at the same time ready their weapons. They know that now is the time to change the family.
And now, my friends, the scene changes, and we go back 200 years in the past, where we see Tawasa working in her lab, obsessed with something she mentions is very fragile. Her robot assistant, named Ichikishima, warns her that she's been working for 27 hours straight and should take a break, but she just replies that it's fine, changing the subject and asking her assistant if she thinks machines can have feelings, deep feelings, for a human. The robot replies that she likes her, but points out that she's not capable of love. Then Tawasa says she sincerely hopes that one day she will understand that feeling. Back in the present, Akira finally wakes up, and the first thing he sees is Yugure tying a lucky charm to his ankle, identical to hers. He touches his chest, sees a scar, but the pain, well, it's gone. He feels healed. Just then, Amoru bursts into the room and hugs him, saying he was asleep for an entire week. At that moment, Fides and Calcrum arrive bringing fruit and apologizing. Akira asks what happened, and the siblings explain that their father went into forced retirement after that humiliation. And now, Fides is the new boss, with Calcrum as his right-hand man. Later, at the Lontano mansion, Calcrum hears Akira is heading to Sendai and recommends a stop at the hot springs in New Tor. Our protagonist mentions he wants to go straight to Tokyo, but Yugure and Amoru give those intense please eyes. Akira, though reluctant, finally agrees to go, on the condition that you, who are watching, have left a like and hype to strengthen this recap. He mentions that the more likes and hype this video gets, the happier and more excited the girls will be on the trip, and that those who are subscribed and have the bell activated will be entered for a chance to win a trip to the hot springs with Yugure. Anyway, since you've already left your like and hype, the next day they catch a ride, and the driver is Obaro, mentioning he's working as a private driver now. When they get to New Tor, the girls go crazy over how beautiful the place is, but Akira, who seems to have a magnet for trouble, sees two women fighting while some guy tries to calm the situation. Our hero, playing the good guy as always, goes to help, and the result couldn't be anything else. He takes a teeth-loosening punch right to the face. The scene changes, and we find out the owner of that punch is named Ajisai, and not only is she monstrously strong, she's also the owner of an inn. She apologizes profusely for causing all that trouble. She explains the fight was with her Elsie partner Hanayama because she's an owl commissioner who's never home, so she can't take back the punch. She at least offers them a room for free. Amuro even comments that in the end, the punch was worth it. The owner takes them to the Azalea Room, which has a beautiful view and access to the inn's famous mixed bath. Akira and Yugure turn red with embarrassment, while Amuro is already rubbing her hands, dying to get in with both of them. Ajisai throws more fuel on the fire, saying the bath has a Cupid effect. Akira stubbornly sits on the floor with his arms crossed, declaring it's not gonna happen. No Elsie, no marriage, and definitely no mixed bath. Seeing his stubbornness, Amoru gives up on him and pulls Yugure into the bath. In the water, Amoru notices Yugure's a bit down. The android admits that lately, every time she looks at Akira, she feels a strange tightness in her chest. Amoru hits her with the truth, asking if she isn't in love. She notes that Yugure always says she loves Akira, but it never seemed real, so maybe she's feeling something more real now. Later, Akira is looking at a local map, and Yugure comes over and asks if something is bothering him. He might as well have said it'd be easier to list what wasn't bothering him, since there seemed to be fewer things not bothering him. And he also says to make it worse, even if he asks her, all he will hear is, "That's confidential." Yugure defends herself, saying she doesn't say those words lightly. Then he asks her what happened to this world, and she replies, "That's confidential." He asks why she was created, and she replies, "That's also confidential." Showing serious persistence, he keeps going and asks if Tawasa is somewhere, and guess what? Yep, that's also confidential. But at that moment, Yokarata approaches with a woman on each arm and mentions that he knows Tawasa. When Akira tries to investigate, Yokarata asks Yugure if it's okay for him to reveal it. She says yes, mentioning that if he obtains outside information by his own merit, it won't be blocked. Well, he then identifies himself as a former owl academic, mentioning that Tawasa was his professor. They're startled with the info that he was with Owl, but he tells them to relax, as he has no intention of passing information to them about anything, including mentioning the feats of androids, implying he already knows Yugure is an android. Well, he then says he'll tell him everything, so sit tight, my friend, because here comes the story. Yokurada reveals that in 2052, a massive war broke out between humans and AIs that killed billions, and the savior was Tawasa Amagi herself. She created the External series, which were the armed androids like Yugure, to end the war. And after, Tawasa founded Owl with 6 sages and vanished without a trace. Akira holds on to the hope that she's alive, but Yokurada reminds him that rationally, this was 200 years ago. And well, after that bombshell, Akira goes to relax in the mixed bath. Thinking he's alone, he starts swimming, and obviously everything was conspiring for the one thing that was bound to happen, meaning he comes face to face with a naked Yugure. The android, mortified with embarrassment, freaks out and starts throwing wooden buckets at him, and if one of those buckets hit him in the head, my friend's brains would have flown everywhere. After things calm down, they stand back to back. But Yugure turns, goes up to his back, and asks him why he jumped in front of the bullet back then. He explains that rationally he knew she'd be fine, but in the middle of his explanation, Amoru shows up. Seeing both of them there, she just jumps into the water screaming that she's part of the LC2. In other words, it's pure chaos. The scene changes, and after they get out, Akira, grateful that she took care of him for a week, asks if there's anything he can do to repay the favor. Yugure, who was having those tight feelings in her chest, gets super nervous. She thinks for a bit, and with all the courage in the world, she invites Akira on a date.
The next day, while Yugure and Amaru are still sleeping, Akira goes to enjoy the hot spring and runs into Yokurada and Hanayama together in the water. The kid is in shock, not understanding anything, but the guy explains the obvious, saying the bath is mixed, meaning anyone can enter. The two even tease Akira, telling him to get in quick before he catches a cold, especially on the day of his date with Yugure. And Akira, even though he accepted, gets all embarrassed, insisting that it's not exactly a date. The scene changes, and at lunchtime, Yugure, who always eats like there's no tomorrow, suddenly excuses herself and leaves the table. Akira is confused. After all, she usually asks for more food. Amaru, however, pretends she didn't see a thing, because she knows exactly what's going on. Earlier, she was woken up by a desperate Yugure asking for advice for the date. The scene changes one more time, and now the group is splitting up. Akira asks Yokurada to take care of Amaru, while Hanayama arrives all happy, commenting on how the bath she took with Akira earlier was wonderful. Amaru hears this and gets absolutely indignant, but since there's no time to argue, she promises to bring this up later. Ajisai even pulls Akira aside to ask if he had fun earlier, and he gets desperate to explain. After all, it's important to remember Hanayama is her partner. But Ajisai seems strangely calm. At that moment, Yugure appears, all dressed up for the date, and Akira is visibly enchanted, even without saying anything. She, super shy, asks how she looks, and since Akira freezes, Ajisai steps on his foot and tells him, "Don't screw it all up now." She asks him to do everything right and give her a kiss or two, and Akira says he'll only do that if the crowd leaves a massive like and hype to help the video get engagement, and also subscribes and hits the bell so Alex's channel can grow. After all, he makes these recaps with so much care and dedication for his friends who are watching, so giving this little push doesn't cost anything, but it helps a lot. Meanwhile, the other group goes to the lookout to see the third crater, while Hanayama reveals the drama. Owl discovered valuable minerals there and wants to turn the hot spring into a mining site. Amaru freaks out, but Hanayama says she won't let it happen. Yokurada then questions if she can really stop it, even as a manager. But she says she has too many memories there, and the hot spring is everything to Ajisai. She can't tell her wife because if the project goes through, she'll be hated by the person she loves most. back to Akira and Yugure, the two are in a pit of secondhand embarrassment, not knowing how to act. Yugure comments that the weather is nice, and he agrees. Seeing that the vibe is awful, Akira spots a barbecue stall and has a master idea. After all, according to him, the secret to a good date is to fill the woman's belly. Akira then shows up with a skewer of meat with fried onions. Yugure's stomach rumbles, but she refuses, afraid of bloating. Akira reminds her she's a robot, but she says it's psychological. After a bit of insisting, she takes the first bite and is fascinated. Later, she sees flowers and remembers Akira gave flowers to Fides. Our protagonist, trying to get out of it, asks if she prefers flowers or dongo. She was about to shout dongo, but remembers she's on a date and says flowers, only for her rumbling stomach to give away the truth. They then go to a place called the Eclipse Foot Bath while he gives her a flower-shaped sweet or ice cream, mentioning this is the flower that suits her the best. And while she says, "That's lame," the fact is she's really enjoying the food. Meanwhile, Amaru, at the lookout, remembers the flashback of Yugure asking to go on the date alone. Amaru feels sad, left out, because she wanted to be with Akira too. Yokurada advises her to be honest about her feelings. She confesses she really likes both of them, and that because she's greedy and wants them both, she's afraid she'll end up being left over. The guy explains that what she's feeling is jealousy, and what she needs to do about it, well, is to be open with them. Amaru is afraid it'll cause trouble, but he says there's no way around it. Love is sometimes complicated and sometimes selfish, and if they don't talk, maybe she'll never really feel okay. And then the scene changes, and we get a flashback to the year 2045, where we see Tolasa taking care of a robot baby. Ichishima comments that she's doing it to maintain her love for Akira, which she confirms. After all, she loves him. Tawasa asks again if AIs can love. The robot says no, because they don't have bodies and they don't have emotions. But Tawasa totally disagrees, mentioning that feelings are not tied to the flesh, and that they are the driving force of evolution. Back in the present, at the explosion crater, Yugure has those exact words from Tawasa in her mind. Akira jokes, asking if she was the one who blew it all up. She quickly answers, no, it was Yoyami. Akira remembers her, she was the android from the beginning, and Yugure confirms Yoyami and Hakubo are her sisters, all external series, war weapons. Yugure asks what he thinks of her now that he knows this. Akira says that after waking up 200 years in the future, everything seems like fiction, and that he's not afraid of her. After all, she's always helped him. He knows her well enough to know she wouldn't do harm. Yugure says he's the weird one for thinking that way, but he throws it back, saying she's the weird one for talking about war weapons in the middle of a date. And it's at that exact moment that Yugure catches him red-handed, mentioning that he admits it's a date. She immediately follows up with a joke, saying, then let's just get married already to get it over with. And before they leave, she asks for a photo. And then, my friends, she goes for it. She makes it clear that if he's going to kiss her, now's the time. Akira freaks out from embarrassment. She doubles down and confesses, I love you. And the photo captures Akira's exact shocked face. Back at the inn, Ajisai asks how far they went, if you know what I mean. Akira innocently says to the explosion crater, but that's not what she wanted to know. At that moment, the other group arrives, and Hanayama gathers her courage and tells everything about Owl's mining project. She admits the reason she's still in Owl is to stop the project from the inside, even if she's branded a traitor, because the only thing that matters is Ajisai. Ajisai hears everything, asks if she can punch her. Hanayama accepts the hit, but instead of a punch, Ajisai kisses her and says she'll carry this burden together with her. At bedtime, Amaru confronts Yugure, mentioning she saw the two lovebirds at the lookout and didn't like being excluded. Yugure, floating on cloud 9 because of the date,
says they feel they are one step closer to marriage. Amaru can't believe what she's hearing and promises she will not let that happen. That's right, the war for Akira's bull has been declared. In the morning, the group says goodbye. And who joins them? Yokurada. He says he feels he'll find what he's looking for if he goes with them, and that he knows Sendai, the city of scholars, like the back of his hand. On the bus, he borrows Akira's watch to analyze it. They arrive at the library, the knowledge repository, but it's a dead end. The books about the AI war are forbidden. Akira is already frustrated, but Yokurada has an ace in his sleeve. He knows the books exist, but they're in the library's secret archives. And how's he getting in? Simple. He used his charm on the librarian, Seshat, and managed to get not only a date, but also the access key. And with that key about to open Owl's biggest secret, today's episode comes to an end. But hold on, you think Yokurada is going to hand over that key just like that? He'll only open that door if he feels the crowd is really hyped to know what's inside. And how will he know? Only if you smash that like button and the hype button to show your support. Leave a comment down below telling me who you think wins this war for Akira's bull. And of course, subscribe and hit that bell so you don't miss the continuation.